pop up and
this shit's fire.
what is up, my proper mega friends, on this beautiful Sunday afternoon? I know many of you guys sat down and already watched the World Superbike and MotoGP races, and good on you because I have too, right? But you guys know the deal and the routine. This episode is sponsored by Next Level Financial. Take control of your financial future. Get your complimentary financial needs analysis today by Seth Starnes. Many of you know who he is. Just look him up. If you can't get in touch with him, hit me up and I'll point you in the right direction. And Brian, this is something that I never really realized how it affected me until I finally got a full custom suit. Okay, so my pitch, not my pitch, but my advice for everybody is get a custom suit because it's tailor made, measured just for you. You don't realize how much better it is, how much more movement you got, right? Because when you have a suit that don't fit you correctly, it causes all kinds of riding issues. It hinders your performance, causes arm pump, all kinds of stuff, right? So I tell everybody, go to bisontrack.com, get your full custom suit started. I got mine hanging up here, super excited. Got my chest protector right here, got the gloves and all that good stuff, right? So yeah, you pick the perforated kangaroo, cowhide, whatever colors, logos, water bag, airbag, the whole 9 yards, right? So listen, everybody, bisontrack.com. Trust me, they're some of the most amazing proper mega people you're ever going to meet. I love Robert and Tasha and what they do for everybody, not just Moto America, but club racers and the whole sport alone. They're at every single event, right? And that's huge because if you go out there, Brian, you have a mishap on the track, you don't have a backup leather suit, you're not going back out, right? So you can take your suit to them and they'll fix it right there on the spot. Boom, back out again, right? So bisontrack.com, people. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute honor to sit down with the legend himself, Brian Stokes, today. What is going on, man?
I don't know about legend, but I'm absolutely ecstatic to be here. You know, we've been talking a while about getting on, and finally it's come to. You've got so many people doing podcasts with. It took me like a month to get on. I'm like, wow, that's awesome, man. That's good. You got a big following. So.
Yeah, it's an absolute honor, man. It's something that when I got asked to be on the podcast, I never envisioned it, right? I never it's hard for me to say because I'm such a humble guy, right? It's the best thing I can say. It's an absolute honor. It really is that people love what I do, right? And I love all you guys too as well. It's beautiful. It's an absolute beautiful thing for me to sit down and talk with legends. Everybody I've had on here is a legend, right? And get your story out there and get a lot of laughs, and people get to find stuff about you that they never knew, right? So it's very exciting, man. Yes. But Brian, listen, we got so much to talk about. I personally followed you in your career. Huge fan. Actually, if I go back through some of my picture albums, me and you got pictures together from back in the day, right? Where I'd come up to you and ask you for a picture and all that good stuff. So huge fan. Anyway, I need to turn that fanboyish off. And listen, how did you start on two wheels?
Well, I was 7 years old, and my dad, mom and dad got me a bike, a little dirt bike, and I've still got it. Actually, it's a Yamaha little 50 with a clutch. So it was like a YZ50 with a clutch. Took me out to a parking lot, got it on Christmas Day, went to our elementary school in a parking lot it's paved. So I'm thinking, it's going to be easy to ride. First time, flip it over. Just 12 o'clock, flip it over. I didn't know if I wanted to ever ride again. So, fast forward, started to learn a little bit on the dirt. And I think I was 10 years old and I started racing dirt bikes. So I got a YZ60 and started that. Didn't start off, gangbusters. No podiums or anything that I can remember back in that day, but started to progress. And then, let's see, 1988, I got a CR 125 and went to the 125C class. I was racing Aaron Yates and Brian Gibbs and we were all having a ball, and we were at a track in South Georgia, and both of those guys came up and said, "Hey, man, we're going to go road racing." I was like, "Oh, that sounds like fun, but I don't have the money to go road racing. I don't really think y'all are serious, whatever." They went to race the Harley 883s, I think, or something. They went to do that class. And I went, so I was in the C class. And then probably halfway through the year, I was winning a lot of races. And we show up at a track. My dad goes, "Hey, I got a surprise for you this weekend." I'm like, "What's that?" He said, "We're racing the A class." We skipped B. So we went C to A class. And I'm like, "Great, you're trying to get me killed." And from then on out, I mean, I raced, I got my tail kicked for the first couple of weekends. After that, it was, started working my way up. And by the end of, the end of the year, I was on, I was finishing on the podium in the A class, and started to do a few AMA races and Supercross and, things like that, but mainly stayed local. Went to Ponca City to do the national, finished 9th in the nation. In Ponca City, Loretta's. I never did good at Loretta's, but you know what? Motocross was just a stepping stone to my road racing, and I didn't realize it at the time. But after I did that for 10 years, motocross, and then after that, I jumped into college. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I went to X-ray school actually, and spent 4 years, almost 4 years, and going through school, and got through X-ray. And you know what? It just wasn't for me. You get into something sometimes and you don't realize, maybe I want to do it, maybe not. Well, my dad, I went through a tough time. My dad bought me a CBR 600 F3, 1995 model, brand spanking new. Best bike I think I've ever ridden on the street. And I went out one day and I started to get my knee closer and closer and closer to the ground in jeans, no leathers, anything. Come around the corner one day at over 100 miles an hour, and it just started drifting out. And all of a sudden, a mailbox comes up, a telephone pole, and I almost run off the road. And I went back to my dad and I said, "Dad, I almost crashed. I need to get to the track. I want to, start doing something out there." And so we looked into it. He took me to a track. Actually, he went to Talladega, and it was on Father's Day weekend. I almost didn't go road racing because of this, but there was a guy, I think it was back at the time, his 1100 Superstock, and there was a girl standing next to us. She's probably 15, 16 years old. And I said, "You got somebody out there racing?" She's like, "Yeah, my dad's out there." And he was, second or third. Well, he crashed right in front of us. I mean, literally right in front of us. And next thing you know, there's a helicopter there, and they shut the blades off. And I was like, "What's going on?" On Father's Day, in front of his daughter, he passed away. And I was like, my dad said, "You really want to do this?" And I was like, I don't know. That's pretty rough, seeing that right off the bat. But so I told Dad, like, "You know what? Let's go to a track day, try it out." Went to Road Atlanta first time to do a track day on a CBR F2. We bought a little F2 from Keith Hookstad. I don't know if you ever heard that name, but Hookstad got me hooked up and on a pair of Dunlop 364s back in the day. Those were good tires too. So anyway, I floundered on that bike out at Road Atlanta and just kind of, made my way around the track day and survived. Well, fast forward a couple of months, I went back to Talladega, little Tally, and started on the third wave in the rain. I took Ed Bargey's school, and I had the pink jersey on. 364s in the rain. And Opie, Chris Kaler, was on pole. He jumped out in the lead, and the solo 20 we were running, I actually ran him down and beat him by half a lap on the solo 20. So that story leads into later, way down the road, me and Opie. So we have a long history together. So, it started out, I had Ed and all of them out there telling me to slow down because I'm not on rain tires and I'm all over the track. So the motocross worked into my favor, sliding around and doing that. But not to get too, I mean, kind of fast forward, and I started in 95, at the end of 95, went to Memphis Motorsports Park, and Mike Smith, Factory Mike Smith, took me, and he coached me up there that weekend. I finished third in my first ever national. And he's like, man, you got some talent. So I'd keep going. And I did the GNF that year. Because I did one national, I got to do the GNF. And fast forward, let's say 96. Actually, no, I take that back. I started in 96. I don't know why I said 95. I think because of the F3, but 96 is when that happened. 97 was my first novice year. Went to the GNF, won a couple of national championships, had a really good year. I crashed really hard, and there was no concussion protocol back then. So crashed in one race, got a bad concussion in turn 5. Everything was green. Got back up, went to my other bike, raced the next race, probably 3 races later, and won with a concussion. And I was like, probably shouldn't have been racing. But next year I went expert, 98, and I was on Arclight Suzuki. Rich Munson from Metzler got me hooked up with them, and that was an awesome year. I was either up front or I was on the ground. I didn't get along with the Metzlers that year real good, and it just happened. So kind of fast forwarding through after that, I kind of went out on my own. We were doing endurance that year. We lost the endurance championship by 1 point to Michael Barnes. He came in as a guest rider. Love Mikey, but I didn't like him that day.
I bet.
Yeah, so we did that, and I got replaced by, you're talking about legends, I got replaced on the team by Trey Beatty. They got Trey in there. So I was like, well, I can't complain about that too much since he's the man. And so I mean, basically just went through, the years. I've been on multiple bikes. I've been on Suzuki, Kawasaki, Honda, Yamaha, Aprilia, and BMW. And, it just every year I started contingency chasing, and I'd race AMA and, do a few of those, but mainly back in the day, golly, Kawasaki was offering $8,000 a weekend to go out and win 4 races, and I'm like, well, and then you get a tire sponsor, and I had people buying bikes for me, and I just kind of started to turn that into my career. And then 2006, I flipped a switch and went total racing. Just, that's all I did. So, and I don't know where you want to go. If you want me to keep telling my story on from there.
Yes, absolutely.
I got hurt really bad at Daytona. Came out, it was me and Steve Crevier, Michael Beck, and it was actually Barney and Jeff May. We were all racing FUSA that weekend before the 200 for Daytona AMA, and it started raining in the chicane on the back straight. Well, I didn't know it, and they threw the flags out after Jeff and Barney had crashed in front of me. I didn't think anything about it, and I came out and I tried to get a good drive on Crevier and ended up about 10 feet in the air, high-sided. Broke my scaphoid, my arm, my wrist, and broke my foot on my left side. Ended up 9 months out with pins sticking out of my wrist. My bone died in my wrist. I had to have surgery again. That's a career-ending injury for a lot of people, and it was my throttle hand, so it was not a good one. So kind of going in, I was doing this for a living, and I'm like, well, I made money at it before, and I just went to to start this full time. I need somebody to ride for me. And people question me all the time. They're like, well, what? You got that guy to ride for you? But he's right down the road, and he was fast, and we were friends. I mean, and when I tell you who it is, you'll be like, oh, I actually hired Mike Smith. Mike, man, that guy would ride the fire out of the bike. He may have been a little loopy out there, but you know, he went out and we teamed up together. I gave him all the equipment and tire. Michelin gave us tires that year, and we went out, and it was him and Robert Jensen and golly, I'm trying to think of the other guy. There was like 3 or 4 of us, you know, chasing money. We went from here to Nebraska to Ohio we were chasing I think we did 23 weekends that year, and Mike won almost every race. So, you know, it was one of those things where he told me very first time we were doing this, he's like, you know what's messed up about this? And I said, what? He said, I'm going to set your bikes up, and you're going to come back out and you're going to beat me after I set these things up. And I went, no, I don't ride your setup, man. You know, that's not going to happen. You know, you've got your own stuff dialed in. Well, I went back racing at the end of the year, and, you know, he finished up. I did 1 race at the end of the year. The next year, he got his own Kawasaki's. We started, you know, racing each other again. And for the most part, he was beat me, you know, every weekend. And then we went to VR, and I was on my 636, and I came down the straightaway and beat him to the line. And he was like, I told you. And I said, well, I don't have your setup in there. It's my setup. And he's like, well, they need to see you at Tech. I protested you. Your bike's too fast. And I was like, seriously? You protested me? And he's like, yeah. So I went down there, and they're like, they didn't protest you. And, you know, after that was his last race. I beat him in his last ever race. And I think he just got tired of the whole hustle and bustle of, you know, trying to get out there and race, you know, putting your life on the line and doing this, that, and the other. So I don't know. It kind of bummed me out a little bit. He didn't quit, you know, he didn't keep racing. But, you know, fast forward, you know, I rode for Rocky Stargell. I rode for Mike Embry. Me and Jeff May were teammates in AMA and Embry Motorsports. And Mike Hippie and all were doing a great job for us. We did that for a year. And then, like I said, I went to Rocky Stargell. He gave me a chance at Formula Extreme Superbike. Had to qualify as high as 6th in FX. Finished as high as 8th, you know, in Superbike and FX, which that was back in the day, man. As we've talked before, that was a lot of factory bikes. And I was very honored to be, you know, a privateer pretty much on, you know, racing with, you know, a who's who of racers. And then I kept just, you know, getting different bikes, different brands, whoever paid the best. Aprilia offered a 10 grand bonus for the end of the year to race the heavyweight twin superbike. And I won it 2 years in a row, and they quit offering the 10 grand. Come on. And then Honda offered a $35,000 championship for a superbike and Wera for the Nationals. So, you know, Tim Hunt went and bought a bike, Lee Acree, Tim Beamersturfer, everybody. There's like 5 or 6 guys that went out and bought Hondas. You had to be on a Honda. You had to race like so many races out of the year and win the championship. Well, one race to go, I actually wrapped up the championship and got the 35 grand, and Honda didn't offer it again. These people, I don't know if they thought if you win it, you know, I don't think anybody's going to win it. Maybe not, or whatever their reasoning was. Maybe they didn't get the big bang for the buck that they thought they were. So after all that, I started slowing down a little bit. 2010 was my last full season racing, and that's when I won that money, won that championship. And I did all that. I was coaching. I kind of got the opportunity. Garrett Gerloff was 15. He was coming off from Milwaukee. His dad, mom, and I talked, and is like, "Hey, we're going to get some 600s. Would you build them?" I didn't do the motor work or anything on them, but we built the chassis and did all the stuff to the bikes. Went out. So I was coaching him and racing at the same. I would race one race a weekend and coaching through, kind of be his crew chief and mechanic for the weekend. That made it a little extra hard on us. But and then the next year he went and got the Graves ride. I raced a couple of times that year and finished up my career actually on a BMW, and went out and, won my last ever race. And it was, I told you I'd fast forward to Opie. So me and Opie were battling tooth and nail. He was on his Suzuki and I was on my BMW. And we went down and I beat him by 0.001 at Road Atlanta at the GNF. And I still rub that into his face. When I get a chance, I'm like, I beat you in my first race. I beat you in my last race. So, but no, Opie he was a beast, man. He was hard to beat. He podiumed AMA races and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, man, I mean, that, in a nutshell, as far as my racing goes, that's when I started to do my transition to crew chief coaching, and just started to kind of, change gears. So
Yeah, what a career. Absolute career, right? And racing, man, there's so many questions I want to ask you, man. But road racing now is nothing like it was, right? Honda's not offering that money no more, Kawasaki or any of that. That's what we need though for our sport to grow, right? We need them back. So you guys listen, you need to come back, But yeah, you grew up dirt. Most racers usually grow up pretty much in the dirt in some form or fashion or the other, right?
Yeah.
And then they transition over to road racing, which is inevitable pretty much, right? But let me ask you this. You rode a lot of years on a lot of different machineries, right? And the BMW was the last one. And I remember when that come out with that bike, I was like, dude, BMW is just going to annihilate all the competition with that bike. Because when BMW comes out with something, it's a really good bike, What was your favorite bike that you raced throughout your career?
Honestly, it's a toss-up. Once we got the BMW going, that BMW is super fast, and it took me and Taylor Knapp both. We endurance that bike also for a few rounds. That was the hardest bike to ride at first because it would try to just buck you off and spit you off, but it was fast in a straight line. Finally, my brother works, he's Olin's technician, and he's been doing that 20 years now, and he helped us get the suspension and the geometry right on it because we tried everything, up, down, sideways, whatever you wanted to do, the bike didn't work. And so we figured that out. So that was probably the lap times I did that weekend on that bike would have put me to like 7th on the Superbike grid in AMA that year. That's how good it was going that weekend. But favorite bike, I mean, as far as stability and just out of the box, was that CBR 1000. That thing was absolutely, the first weekend we did the Honda of Money, the Superbike race down at Roebling Road. I was 8/10 off the track record with bodywork, suspension, and tires. That's it. And me and Tim Hunt were racing that weekend, and Tim Beamister for Acre hadn't shown up yet with his bike, and that's probably bar none one of the best bikes and handling bikes I've ever ridden. Rocky had the R6 when we did FX. We got that bike rolling really good. Had some good finishes with it. But as far as just out of the crate, just the handling on that thing was it was real plush. Just really, it worked with you, and very forgiving, very forgiving. So I'd say the Honda CBR 1000 is probably my pick, and I've still got that bike too. So
I love it. Yeah, it's a great bike. Honda to me, my favorite Honda of all time is the RC51, hands down. To me, it's just their best bike, but everybody loved that 1000 when they come out with it. It was 04 was the first year of the CBR 1000. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 04. Yeah, it's a great bike. I've ridden many of them, and they're absolutely they do everything well, and they inspire so much confidence, right? Which is good, because the way I describe motorcycles, Brian, they're different women. They're beautiful women, every single one of them, right? They all have their own traits, the way you need to ride them, change your riding style to get the best out of them, the way they dance, the way she likes to be talked to. You know the routine because you've ridden many of them, right? So yeah, it's and all the names you keep bringing up, man. I ain't heard them names in a long time. I'm like, yeah, this brings back a lot of memories of the golden days, man. It's Yeah, so we actually got a couple comments coming in. My good buddy Chris Lewis, all the way from the UK, says, "Hey, Chris and Brian, how's it going?"
Good, man. Good. Actually, UK, I got my Triumph shirt on because I contract with Triumph motorcycles now. So good on you. I hope to get over to Hinkley one day. I want to go over and visit the factory. I've been with Triumph contracting 12 years now, and
Nice.
yeah, going strong. Their program, their bikes, everything they've got going, the motocross stuff now, and all that's good. So like to come over and visit, Chris.
Yeah, dude, for real. I want to go back. I went last year, August, to
Sure.
Cadwell Park for the BSB race. Um, which when it's like everything you see it on TV, but when you're there and you watch them guys jump that mountain course, you're like, holy shit, dude! Like this is one of
That's
the most beautiful
motocross and road racing together.
right? Yeah, it's man, it was the most mega weekend I've had as far as road racing goes. Just the atmosphere, just being overseas and the whole yeah, watching them jump is really good. And then we got Zach Beaven. What's up, Zach? He says, "What's up, guys?" And then our good buddy Matt Hall too. Matt Hall says, "How is the racing today compared to when you were racing back in the '90s?"
I don't know. A lot of the people I don't really know now, as far as coming up through because I've been away from the track for a while. So I think we've got some exciting races. Moto America's doing really, they're doing a great job. I think back in the day, because we talked about the factory involvement and everything, man, back in the day, you had at least 10 to 15 guys that were factory riders or factory back riders. And I'm talking one-off bikes for Superbike and this, that, and the other. The Yamaha team's really the only one, that's out there full factory. You've got the BMWs out there now and everything, but I would say the biggest difference is the field being stacked. The amount of riders they're combining the Superbike with the super stock bikes and doing all that, which is great because some of the super stock bikes at some tracks are just, not far off. Ashton Yates is doing really good. But like you said earlier when we were talking before we get on, the golden era of road racing. It's exciting, all the young kids coming up, but comparing it to back then, I'm very blessed and very honored to be a part of that because I don't think we'll ever see that again. You're going to have your couple of riders that are going to the world stage. You got Garrett and you've had you got Joe Roberts over there, but back in the day it was Colin Edwards and Nicky Hayden, and they were up there winning world championships. And I hope people do that again. We'll get some riders over, but I hope that answers your question. But I hate to make a comparison from now and then, back when I was, racing back then, because it's kind of, I don't think it's the same, the same. The riders are going really fast. They're setting new track records, but at the same time, it's only 4 or 5 riders up there really, hammering it out when we had 10, 15 riders back then, just a who's who.
No, you're right. It's a completely different ball game, even though it's still a frame and 2 wheels and forks and a rear shock. It's again, we're missing the major sponsorships, the major factories to come in to build them one-off bikes. Riders were getting paid. Now it's very rarely that riders are getting paid. I know there are riders that are getting paid, but it's nothing like it was, right? I would love to see our sport go back to that status again, right? There's just a big gap now, I think, between Europe and us. The way they grow their kids up racing on a proper chassis, keeping them on that process, throughout their career until they make it in a Moto 3 and then Moto 2. And if you're all the stars have to line up. Everything's got to fall in place to make it to MotoGP, right? Only very few selected ever get a chance to do it. Much less, I could say the same thing for Moto America and Superbike, right? Or Super Sport, or just to make it in Moto America. It's such a dream for a lot of young boys and girls coming up, and a lot of them racing right now. So yeah, you're a legend, Brian. Absolute honor to have watched you throughout your career. I was cheering for you. Like I said, I'm gonna have to go find them when we get off here. It's gonna take me a while because I got a million pictures, but I'm gonna find pictures with me and you because I know I got them right. I'm gonna send them to you.
You better.
I will. It's man, yeah, Matt, you're right. You know, it does the same. I was thinking we need more factories jumping. We do, but you know, with Suzuki pulling out of MotoGP, Kawasaki, I mean, Honda, they ain't been really in since what our hit in 08, 09,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's when most of our
Right.
sport, you know, went downhill, and then DMG come in and took it over, and it was like 6 races a year, which was like, oh my god, what's happening? You know, and then Wayne Rainey took it over, and
Yeah.
here we are.
You know, history kind of repeats itself a little bit. You know, I was talking to some guys that raced back in the 70s and 80s, and they said it went down, went down really low, and like kind of like when DMG came in, and then it had to work its way back up. So I hope the factory involvement comes back to the extent. But I was talking to Ben Spees, and I are good friends, and we were at VR when he was on the Yosh bike, and it was me and him and Greg White and some of them just sitting in the pits after the race weekend, and Ben won the championship that year, and he's like, "Man, I'm pissed." And I'm like, "Why are you pissed?" He's like, "Because I'm getting paid 4.6 million, and Milan got 4.8 million, and I won the championship." I'm like, "Dude, seriously, you're complaining, getting 4 point? That's just from Suzuki." And they're bonuses back when Miguel was racing back Superbike and FX. 100 grand, let's say 50 grand a win. Sorry, 50 grand a win. And he went and at Road America won FX and 2 Superbike races. That's 150K a weekend, just in bonuses from Honda. So I mean, you're lucky. Some of these factory guys, quasi factory guys, because it's not, like I said, not like it was in the day, but they're lucky to make 6 figures a year. Or if somebody breaks $200,000 to $300,000 these days in road racing, that's a lot of money over here. But back in the day, it was just that they were throwing money around like it was nothing. So, but they were motivated. The factories were trying to get their bikes out and everything like that, and they would have one-off bikes shipped over from the factory. HRC would send bikes over, and it's just not the same. I mean, Stamboli does a really good job with the factory Yamahas, and but that bike's holding the tooth also. So anyway, I'm not going to go off on. I wish it would come. It might circle back around to a certain degree, and maybe all the manufacturers get back into it. Dunlop tires I was back when I was on Michelin tires. They were really good, but I was losing out to the UK Dunlops. When they came out they had the ones from the UK. I did really good. I switched over, and I was like a second half faster at every track than I was on the Michelins. Got along with them really well, and in my career on Dunlops, they went to they brought them in-house over here and started. That was very scary at this. They bring out a tire and want me to try little things here and there. Jason DeSalvo and I started a school called Speed Academy, and they would give us tires to try and this, that, and the other. And some of them were the hardest freaking tires I mean, they were bowling balls, but we were trying stuff for them. Over the years, they have gotten really, really good though. Tony Romo gave me a set. I did a one-off race at Road Atlanta a couple of years ago. It was a weir race combined with the AMA race, and he, let me try a couple of new sets of tires, and they were really, really comparable, if not better than the UK tires back in the day. So Dunlop's done their research and development, and with all Taylor Knapp and all those guys, and they've got a great product now. But at first, it was sketch. So, but anyway.
No, yeah, I bet. One thing that I would love to see though, Brian, is us have tire wars in Moto America, right?
Yep.
Bring Michelin, let Bridgestone come in, because without that competition, it's almost like, yeah, the tires progress, but they have nothing really to test themselves up against, right?
Right.
If that makes sense to everybody listening, right? You got to have that competition. Plus, I think, me personally, I think in order to would be cost effective too is Dunlop is the one make tire with Moto America, right?
Yeah.
But part of that expense, man, they're just so expensive, right? I would love to see them give a big discount to the racers and the children and the moms and the dads that show up and sacrifice everything just to make it there, and then have to buy $2,500 of sets and tires a weekend. You know
Right.
what I mean? When you could, if they allowed other manufacturers, you can go out and bring your own Pirellis in or your Bridgestone, whatever it is you want to ride, right?
Well, and I don't know if a lot of people, I mean, if you were back racing when we were racing, I see where Dunlop, they get a spec tire and everything. Back in the day, you had Pirelli, you had Michelin, you had Dunlop with the three majors. Well, if you were a fast Dunlop rider like Miguel and all those guys, you got different tire sizes, you got different compounds that we couldn't, they were unobtainable.
Yep.
So, Pirelli came out, Metzler, Pirelli, whatever, back in the day, the same thing. They would come out when Haskavec and all those guys with M4, they would come out and have special tires, which I actually got to ride on some of those. I was a Pirelli rider at one time, and you wouldn't believe the difference in the tires. And one case where me and Larry Pegram were the only Michelin riders in AMA, and we show up to Mid-Ohio, and they had a tractor trailer just for me and him, because we're the only two guys up there. They said, bring me a set of wheels. I'm like, and I can tell this now because, I mean, I don't race anymore. So I don't care. They said, bring me a set of wheels. I'm like, okay. And they made me leave the set of wheels in the truck the whole night. They mounted a set of tires up and said, I've got 2 sets of these. Go practice on a set and or qualify on a set. And then we got one set for a race. And I was like, okay, this is kind of strange. I went out and I was a second and a half faster than overall lap time than I was the whole weekend on that set of tires. And I said, what is this tire? And they said, it's 2-year-old MotoGP technology. I was on an R1 coming out of the keyhole, just sticking it with no traction control, just sticking the throttle wide open on Rocky's bike, and the thing wouldn't spin. It was, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So I think a spec tire kind of gives it a little more fair advantage, so the manufacturers don't come out with these one-off special tire sizes and tires for the fast riders.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see it on both sides, but I agree 100%. Maybe they could have a spec tire for Dunlop, a spec tire for Michelin, and a spec tire for Pirelli, and say, you've got to run this certain Pirelli, you got to run this certain Michelin, certain Dunlop. And I think that would solve a lot of that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true too. So do you think that still goes on today? Certain riders get the best Dunlop tires over other riders in the paddock?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think, talking to Romo and all the guys that, I'm still friends with the people at Dunlop, and they've been really good to me over the years. And, we actually did test and development through BEI, which was, the endurance team in Wira, and Billy Etheridge and I, and Tim Beamersturfer. Oh, you smiling, little Bill. We actually won the championship, but we were testing tires that whole year. And so they've come up, and Taylor Knapp's been a real big part of that, and with the testing. But I think they've got their spec tires, and I think that's what they have. They don't have anything special that I know of. So at the end of the day, it's fair for everybody in that sense. But back in the day, like I said, they were different sizes for the rear tire of Miguel's bike than I could get. I mean, he was running I think they said he was running like a 200 or a 210 back in the day on a super bike. And we had 190s, something like that. But yeah, anyway.
So how did you and Jason DeSalvo come together and create that school?
Well, it kind of comes in together with Triumph. It's kind of a good lead into that, because I didn't have anything to do with Triumph. Jason was racing for, the factory Triumph team over here, doing AMA. I was coaching Garrett and, doing some things, and I called him up one day and I said, hey, what do you think about doing some kind of school? I've been thinking about it. I've been coaching a little bit. And he's like, man, I've been thinking about it too. And we just started talking back and forth for a couple of months. And he said, listen, I've got, a race for Triumph. Let's see if they'll give us a few bikes. And I was like, well, all right. Well, look, fast forward a little bit, and he got in touch with Triumph, and we ended up getting a couple of Daytonas. Let's say they were 675s back in the day, and now they're 765s. And we started started a school. It started to become real successful, getting a lot of people in and a lot of good feedback. Well, once that got rolling pretty good, Triumph was making a transition from a big factory, not a factory, but like a big warehouse that they had down in Newnan, Georgia. And they were looking for somebody to take care of their, marketing, press fleet, things like that. And they started, we'll have about 8 bikes, if you'll take care of those, that'd be great. Ended up being like 30, 35 bikes. And just anyway, that exploded from there. But Jason and I kept going for 4 years after that. And I ended up being, I was Elena Meyer's crew chief when she started racing for Triumph. So Elena actually, she lived here for a year when she came from California and stayed here. And, she was great to work with. So it was Elena and Jason on the team. And I was crew chief for Elena that year.
That's awesome. Another legend of the sport that's married with kids now. I always enjoyed Elena. I got pictures with her too as well. I got a picture with Jason DeSalvo. You name it. I go back in the day, man. I got I was at the last race where at Phoenix International Raceway last time AMA ever raced there. That's when I met I finally had the chance to meet Anthony Gobert. Actually still got the signed poster on my wall right here. When he was with Vance and Hines Ducati. So yeah, it's
that's a loss. That was the most talented rider, natural talent that I've ever seen. That was just went down that wrong path, man. I hate it. I hate, he was a nice guy. He, very, approachable. Never talked to him a whole lot, but when I did, he was, he never had anything. He talked to you, So, but yeah, rest in peace, man. That's bad.
Yeah, I remember. I never forget because I seen him. I was like, "Oh my god!" Because I'm a huge fan, right? Oh my god, it's Gobert! I'm gonna get this poster signed, And I go up to him like, "Gobert, dude, I'm a huge fan." I couldn't help it, man. I'm into it. I'm excited. I get that energy and that aura. He's like, "Good day, mate." All that. I was like, "What's up, dude?" Blah, 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 dude. What the most thing I remember, Brian, is he looked at me in my eyes and we had a real conversation. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Nothing about racing. Just like, man, what do you think of America? He's like, oh, mate, and talk about beer and food and just all kinds of stuff. And I remember he had a nice looking girl with him. And then she was like, come on, Anthony, we got to go. He's like, all right, mate, I'll see you around. I was like, let's go, baby. Yeah, it was yeah, man. The Go Show. Legend. Yeah, I got Anthony Gobert's helmets right here.
Oh, nice.
Yep, that's Gobert's helmet right there.
Well, he, definitely was a fast dude, and just he got caught up in the party.
He did. So I know what happened to Elena, man, but what happened to Jason DeSalvo, man? He was here one day and then kind of.
Jason, it was we, like I said, we did the school for 4 years, and he calls me one day and says, hey, I'm going to go do something else. And, I'm enjoying the school, but, I want just, you want to buy my part out. I was like, man, I really don't want to do it without you, cause he does bring, that's why we named it, DeSalvo Speed Academy, because his name, is a lot bigger than mine for sure. And that would draw more people. We just kind of parted ways, and then he went to work for his father-in-law at a off-road ORV park and trying to get that going. And then Jim, his dad, passed away. I think it's been, I don't even know if it's been a year, maybe a year now. And he went up to take care of his the family business. New York, they own a printing company. And I've talked to him maybe once or twice since his dad passed. And him and Bethany are doing good. Their kids. I think it's Romney and
Yeah.
I can't remember the other kids. I never met their kids, or maybe once when we were doing the school. But he's just kind of just gone off, doing his thing with his family. So
Yeah.
but,
Yeah, good on him, man. I love to see everybody happy, right? You at the end of the day, you got to be happy. Yeah, man, good stuff, Brian, dude. We're almost 45 minutes into this, man. I told you it was gonna go by super quick. I told you I'd only keep you about an hour today. But let's get away from all the motorcycle talk. I want to get into, the personal side of you, away from the legend status that you are when it comes to road racing. Yes, you're a legend, brother. Absolutely. But stay on with me for a few minutes after I end this so we can go ahead and schedule part 2 and all that good stuff. But I want to start off by asking you, Brian, are you a coffee drinker?
yes, yes, I'm a coffee drinker, but I've got to admit, I'm the vanilla latte. I don't know if you consider that coffee, but I've got to get my fix. I'm not just a straight coffee drinker. No.
Yeah, I drink coffee too. Sometimes I drink it straight up black. Sometimes I add a little bit of milk and sometimes some creamer too. I try to stay away from as much processed sugars as I can. It's hard sometimes, because it's in every freaking thing. So now it's a moderation. You know what I'm saying? A little moderation, a little fuzz goes a long way. But yeah, I'm a coffee drinker too, man. So let me ask you this, Brian. Tell us something we don't know about Brian Stokes.
Oh Lord. I don't know. I'm 50 years old and I've got a wife and 2 kids. I mean, some people may know. Other than that, I like to hunt. I like to deer hunt and fish. Do the redneck stuff. I'm from Georgia, so I've got to be a hunter and a fisher, right?
Yeah, I love guns. Or a family of guns. We go shooting. We go fishing. Man, I used to fish my butt off, Brian. But you know what killed it for me is I went deep sea fishing 2 years ago, and I caught a 500-pound blue marlin and a bunch of dolphin mahi fish. And I went back to try to catch smallmouth and largemouth. And when I did, I was like, I'm not having fun because I don't have this monster on the end of my line where it's like dragging a boat around, right?
Right.
Yeah, but I love guns. Hunted like very few in my life. Never, wasn't really big into hunting.
Right.
But yeah, do like to shoot. I do enjoy fishing, deep sea fishing. Go out there and catch some monsters.
Deep sea fishing. I had a 11-foot hammerhead shark on one time. You can't bring it on board, but that was the biggest one that they had ever had on the line, and it was big. So fought that for a while, but yeah.
Nothing like, dude. I remember when they're like, Marlin on, get in the chair. I sat in the chair, they buckled me in, strapped me in, got the pole in there where it was locked in. And dude, I fought that thing for like 2.5 hours. It got to the point to this day, it was the most physical and mental thing I've ever had to do.
I bet you had a heart pump bad, didn't you?
Bro, mental challenge as far as like I'm so wore out and so tired. Like I literally had to take my knee and lift my arm up just when when it would stop pulling to gain some yards back in on him, right? I got a plaque, dude. I got all kinds of stuff in the mail about it. I had the flag upside down. I had no idea it was a big deal, but yeah, it was. It was again an honor. Yeah. So let me ask you this, Brian. What was your worst habit in road racing?
My worst habit. Well, starting off, my worst habit was going around and asking everybody what gearing they were running or what they were, that rookie move where you're like, what tire pressures you're running, that. And then I guess looking back sometimes, I didn't do it later in my career. I learned not to, but one of my worst things was I wanted to know if there's somebody behind me, and I just needed to focus on what was in front of me. So it's probably my worst habit.
Who was your favorite teammate you had?
Favorite teammate? Actually, and he's a funny dude. We are in contact with each other. Mark McDaniel. Mark and I were on we were on Arclight Suzuki together, and he was a hoot. Jeff May was fun. Jeff May was a good guy to be a teammate with. I mean, if you consider all the endurance rides that I did, I mean, I was teammates with Josh Hayes. I was teammates with, I think Trey and I think Trey and I raced on the same team together once. And then, I mean, as far as favorites, got to be Mark though. So awesome. he's still kicking around. He's a little older now, but we hang out. So
it's good, man. It's good. I love our I call it a beautiful circus, Moto America, all road racing, right? Whether it's BSB, it's all a beautiful circus,
yeah.
in the friendships you make and the camaraderie with inside it. There's nothing like it in any other sport. And I played soccer and all that stuff growing up, and there's nothing compares. Absolutely nothing. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I don't really read books a whole lot because it puts me to sleep, but audiobooks, yeah, it's all day. So is that something you do too, or do you read books?
I don't. I'll listen to some audio stuff too, but man, I'm working so much. I don't have time to do anything right now. And I can read, but reading's not my favorite thing. It's kind of funny you mentioned that because I've got a Bible study I do every week with a group of guys. And one of the guys and I were talking 2 days ago about the same thing. He's like, man, have you been reading any books? I'm like, man, I don't read books. I'm just, and I think a lot of it comes down to my attention span. I don't know. I just can't focus long enough to just keep reading a book and really enjoy it. But yeah, it's kind of funny you say that.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I don't either. I got ADHD and I don't take, man-made medicine for it.
Right. Yeah.
So I just freaking deal with it, dude. Right. So like I tell people, tighten up, Buttercup, and just deal with it. Right.
Right.
But yeah, audiobooks I can listen to because I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to some motorcycle podcasts, but I listen to a lot of other, like Joe Rogan, and I like the Egyptians and the pyramids and the Greek mythologies, like the Spartans and all that stuff. So I listen to podcasts on that, dumb stuff. It's not dumb; it's just different, right? But yeah, do you listen to any podcast or?
Not a ton. I listen to yours now because since we've talked, man, I've been watching your podcast, and Corey Alexander's got one with
James Rosoli.
Yep. Right, I call him Ravioli.
Ravioli.
Ravioli. Yeah, I like Rispoli. He's funny. But yeah, I watch theirs some, and Garrett Gerloff's got. It's not really a podcast, I don't guess, but he's got the videos he does. So I watch little things like that.
Yeah. So. I watch all of theirs. Everybody you mentioned, I watch them all. Absolutely, I do or listen. For sure. So growing up, man, who was your favorite comedian and who's your favorite comedian now?
Comedian, golly. I was not growing up as a kid, I probably didn't listen to the best stuff in the world, but Eddie Murphy I loved Eddie Murphy back in the day and the stuff that he did. And like nowadays, I wouldn't listen to Eddie Murphy stuff because it's kind of I look back on like, God, listen to that stuff. It's pretty, his movie Raw or the thing he did Raw. So that and I guess that's about the only one that sticks out that really, I listened to a lot back in the day.
Yeah, Raw and Delirious is the other one he had coming out. I remember I got caught listening to him. Of course, kids. Dad, your friend steals a tape from your dad, the VHS tape. You put it in, and everybody's like, hush, hush. But when they're just crying, laughing, and door flies open, what are you guys doing? Yeah.
So my dad and his brother had a video store, like an actual video store. And I knew the lady that was running the counter, and I would go in there and she would let me sneak tapes out. Not even check them out. My dad, he don't even know that to this day. Hope you don't watch this, but I would sneak tapes out, rated R movies So yeah, not good.
That's awesome. So I want to get to my question from Riston Grigg. He left you a question. His question for you, Brian, is what's the most meaningful race of your career?
Oh, wow. The most meaningful race. It was probably when I won the Suzuki Cup 600 race. Me and Mark Young and Adam Furtek with he was racing for Valvoline back then. We went at it pretty good, and so that was about one of my most memorable. I mean, I've had several, but and then the Opie race. So that was really good to end it. You know,
The first one and the last one.
the first and the last.
I love it. Sound like Ricky Bobby, baby. The first and the last.
Right. You ain't first, you're last.
I love that movie, man. It's so awesome. What's for dinner tonight, bro?
You know, that's a good question. I'm hungry right now. A good steak would be good, but I'll probably go in and fix me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or something. I don't know. You know, just I had Zaxby's last night. I try not to eat out too much, but you know, maybe a sandwich and not just kind of chill out a little bit. So
nice. I cooked flank steak last night, homemade mashed potatoes and some corn. Yeah,
that seems good.
Tonight I'm gonna do grilled chicken, reheat the leftover mashed potatoes and gravy, and probably go to the store and either get some asparagus or some broccolini to cook with it.
Have you ever done the asparagus with some salmon? Get some golly. Yeah. Dude. Garrett's mom used to do that every race weekend. She'd get a big old slab of salmon, put it on the grill with some asparagus every race weekend. That was so good.
With some garlic and some butter, man. Don't even give. I love to cook, right? So I get that from my mom's side. My mom, I grew up, she made all these homemade meals, and I paid attention. And then so when I, ventured out on my own, I started cooking myself, and my mom never realized that I actually paid attention. To one day I called her up. I was like, yeah, mom, I'm getting ready to do this. And I got this, this, and this, and this. But how did you do that thing again? She's like, holy shit, you paid attention. I was like, I did. And look, mom, do I need to go to the store? You got some? Like, what do I do? She's like, well, you can substitute it with this, blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, it's, yeah, I love to cook, man. It's,
awesome.
Makes me happy. Good stuff. And that's how I lost a lot of weight is, staying away from a lot of process. It's so easy when you work day to day and you get caught in that trench, right? And you come home, you don't feel like cooking, you throw something in the microwave or heat it up real quick and eat it. It's not good for you. Then you wake up one day and you're like, oh my God, I got to buy bigger pants and shorts, right?
Well, people don't realize too, when that year I won the Suzuki Cup, I won the Horizon Award also that year.
Yep.
A big part of my success with that was working with a personal trainer and a nutritionist. And that nutritionist got me off the sugar. She gave me chromium pills. I don't know if you've ever heard of the chromium pills. It curbs your appetite for sugar. And I was the most clear-headed, I could go out and race for hours and hours and hours if I needed to and not be fatigued. So nutrition and training for those out there right now, that's key. Even, road racing, motocross, whatever. And, you have to make sure you do that.
Oh, 110%, man. 110%. So let me ask you this. Growing up, that was our era. You a Star Wars or Star Trek guy?
Star Wars.
What character would you be in Star Wars, Brian?
Oh, I don't know. I'd probably be Luke.
Luke Skywalker. I love it. I love it. I actually got me my Darth Vader Star Wars right here. Riston Greg pulled his out too. I just don't have I need to put batteries in it, man. And my son, he's got my Luke Skywalker one. So yeah, we're big Star Wars nerds for sure. So let me ask you this, Brian, if you had your own team in Moto America right now, today, as we're talking, let's just say Superbike team, right? Or whatever team you want to do, Twins Cup, Super Sport, whatever. What's the two riders in this day and age you would put on your two bikes?
Wow, that's a good one. I'm trying to think of the riders. Like I said, I watched Moto America and the Superbike stuff. But and this is not a rider from our era. We talked about this era now. But if I had the money and everything, I'd put Josh Hayes back on the 600 or something to watch him. And I even told him that not long ago. We were texting. And I said, "Man, I'd love to put you back on a bike because he wants to race. That guy, there's no quitting that guy." So, Rocco Landers is a good pick for, he's coming up through. He's racing that Harley real good. I would probably have to say Hayden Gillum. Hayden Gillum and I, because of Garrett, they were racing together, and he just the mentality he's got and the drive. Um, him and Jake Lewis were back with Garrett, and so I got to know those guys really well. And I would probably team up, put them on a team. So
nice. And what's the bikes they're going to be on? What manufacturer?
if it was Superbike, I would go. I mean, Bobier's he's been right. He's a favorite rider of mine now. He was another one back on the Yamaha team. But I would probably say if we could get the Honda, if like Hayden Gillum's racing at Honda really good. If we could get a good HRC Superbike, man, that would be a weapon of choice in the Superbike class.
Oh, it would be. I would love to see like Aprilia back in it, right? Suzuki needs to come. Well, Suzuki's there with M4, but Triumph. But we need Triumph back. I mean, there are some people, my buddy Kevin Orney, right? But I'm talking about a factory effort, right?
Yeah.
For sure. So
and Ben Spies, they've done a really good job with that Ray Hall.
Yes, he has. Yeah, he's another legend, man. He I tell people all the time, Ben Spies was one of those rare talents. I'm not taking nothing away from Matt Mladen because Matt Mladen he reminded me a lot of Mick Doohan. They're both Australian. He come out here and kicked ass, take names, absolutely just dominated, right? And it took another legend such as Ben Spies to come and ruffle his feathers. If not, he'd probably still be winning. Let's just be honest. So what Ben did when he left Moto America and went to World Superbike, never been on that bike, never seen those tracks before, and absolutely dominated.
Yeah.
I don't think in our lifetime we're going to see anything like that again. And then people, criticize sometimes my friends, oh, well, Ben didn't do good in Moto. I was like, dude, he did brilliant in MotoGP. You got to understand, when you go from a production bike to this unobtainium $1 million machine,
yeah,
everything changes. Everything you ever thought you knew how to ride changes with this bike, right? So you got to learn this whole, and some people do it, some people don't, but he's absolutely a legend, brilliant. He won a race in Aston, man. Come on, man. What are you talking about, right? Like,
and listen, people don't, a lot of people don't know this. Where Ben started out? He was 14 and 15 when I first met him. We had and I didn't do this, so y'all don't hold this to me, but I was watching him do it. He got somebody on each side of one of those big slingshots at Texas World Speedway, and we were finding bullfrogs, and he was taking bullfrogs and slingshotting them as far as he could across the paddock. That's where Ben Spies started out. So don't let him fool you. We had some good times, not just that, but go-karts and stuff. So kids out there, you can start off slingshotting frogs across a paddock to a world champion. So anyway.
Well, when I see Ben at New Jersey coming up at the end of the month, I'm gonna tell him that story. Be like, bro, I just had Brian Stokes on. He was telling me you were slingshotting frogs through the parking lot, man. What's up with that? I'm going to.
He's had some licks to his head. I don't know if he should remember that though. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, listen, Brian, we're an hour and 2 minutes into this. I told you I only keep you an hour, man. It was an absolute honor. Before we get off here, there's a couple things I'd like to say, and then I'm gonna let you in the podcast with your shout outs too, right? So first thing I just want to say, as I always do, I appreciate every single one of you guys that watches this podcast, likes and subscribes to my channels. If you have not, please go to my YouTube and my Spotify account, like and subscribe. It helps me out a whole lot. Thank you, Matt and Zach and everybody else, Chris, for watching live. I appreciate you guys. Nothing but love to every single one of you guys out there. It means so much to me. It's an absolute honor to do this. Thank you for Seth Starnes at Next Level Financial for sponsoring this episode. Thanks to Bison too. You guys, bisontrack.com. Come on. What are you guys doing? And Chef Eats, Brian, right? So Chef Eats, he's a good friend of mine, Jeff Servin. He makes these home prep meals, ships into your house. You can take to Moto America, but you can also eat them for dinner and lunch. They're absolutely amazing. I talk about Chef Eats all the time. He caters them different. Like you can do athletes meals with no salt, no sodium, which is salt, right? And all this other stuff. So you guys go to chefeats.com. And he'll, when you go to Moto America races, he'll put out a schedule. You order them before this date, they'll show up. So you can have them there at the track. They're absolutely amazing. Big shout out to Flying Eyes Optics, Brian. So this is a new sponsorship that I actually just took on. Well, Road America in Wisconsin. But these sunglasses, they're made and assembled in Austin, Texas. They're the lightest sunglasses I've ever had. They make them in prescription because I wear contacts,
Mm,
but they're made and designed to fit up underneath your helmet, whether you're a dirt bike guy, a motocross guy, a super bike guy, street guy, whatever it is. They're so light. I don't even when I wear them under my helmet, I don't even tell I have them on. You know, you wear glasses, I wear glasses. Our arms on our, our prescription glasses are super stiff. So if you put them up underneath your helmet, it causes pressure points, causes headaches. You're not having fun riding no more, right? Because your head hurts.
right.
But that's where the Eyes Optics come in. So you guys go to Flying Eyes Optics, get 10% off. Use the discount code PENDEGAS10. Big shout out to RD Racing out there in the UK and my good mate Jake Marsh. Heal up quick, buddy, so you can get back out there and pin that gas again. And Vet2 Track, Brian. I'm a huge supporter of my buddy Jim Whitman at Vet2 Track. He has this program where he brings veterans together at the racetrack, right? So they can get away with everything they're dealing with from their day-to-day lives and meet new people and have fun and get to most of them never even seen a race, much less been there, right? So we bring them into our world, show them how much fun we have, and hopefully it helps them out clear their head too as well, right? So it's
Right.
an awesome program. So if I have any vets out there, get in touch with me. I'll put you direct contact with Jim. He's actually going to be there in September too at the end of this month. So make it to Jersey. I'll introduce you guys. We'll have a really good time. Big shout out to SFL Mini GP. All my peoples down there in South Florida. Brian's got some of the best programs here in America, and NJMP up there in New Jersey Mini. So their program, Brian, is, let's say you have a kid, he's 5'6", you want to get him out there on the track, you register, you don't need nothing, no gear, no nothing. They provide everything, even the bikes. You show up, boom, they put you out there on the track, right, to hone or get to learn your riding skills. Big shout out to 64 Degree Racing, my man Jeff Tate Comedy. Sorry, I said Jeff. I don't know why I said Jeff. But big shout out to 64 Degree Racing at Tate, man. He makes the absolute best undersuits. He actually sent me a custom one, and I'm in love with it. Like, I don't wear any other one. So, yeah, 64 Degree Racing. And last but not least, big shout out to my man Martin from the Clothing Kings out there in the UK. You guys can go to clothingkings.co.uk and get all your Pin to Gas merch out there in the UK. And again, ladies and gentlemen, it's an absolute honor to sit down with the legend himself, Brian Stokes.
I appreciate you having me. So, yeah, hopefully we can do this again.
We're going to schedule one as soon as we get off here. But is there anything you would like to say, Brian, before we end this podcast?
I want to tell the kids out there and the guys, girls doing Moto America, any type of racing out there. If you've got a dream, don't. I know people say it's kind of cliche. If you got a dream, chase it. But if you really want it, go after it. And it may or may not happen. But if you put that effort into it, where you're training and you're trying to make it, it's something, at a sport, just keep pushing at it. If you enjoy it, if you don't enjoy it and your parents are pushing you, then I've seen that happen too, and that's not a good situation. But no, I think that's about it. I thank my parents for they stayed behind me all these years, and I'm actually a parent now. So, I've got a 23-year-old and a 19-year-old, and my son got into motocross a little bit and did pretty good at it. But it was nerve wracking. So I put my parents through a lot of stuff. And, I know a lot of people, not a lot, but there's people out there that, I don't know people's face, but I'm a Christian. I love God. And without him, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to do what I did without him. So it's been a big, especially later in my life, it's been a big part of it. So that's about it. So
I love it. I love it. Thank you guys so much. And one thing I do tell everybody, Brian, is none of us are strangers. We're just friends that haven't met yet, right? I really believe that. And also, my buddy, when I said that to my buddy the other day, he's like, "But you meet people and you automatically, your energies don't match and you don't get along." I said, that don't mean that somewhere we're not friends.
Yeah.
That don't mean we can't be friends at all, right? You're not going to get along with everybody. We're not designed to get along with everybody. Well, how do I want to put that? Not everybody gets along with everybody. I'll put it to you like that, right? So, but at the same time, I really believe that none of us are strangers. We're just friends that, haven't met yet. And one thing before we get off here, thanks again, everybody, is everybody, and I say this all the time, I challenge everybody, whether it's 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is, one time a day, every day, stop what you're doing and enjoy your moment wherever you're at, whether you're at work, you're at home, you're sitting on the couch, you're listening to this podcast, you're on the computer, playing video games, whatever it is, stop and enjoy that moment, because time is something we can never pause, fast forward, rewind, or take back. I love every single one of you guys, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday for my next podcast. Until then, again, ladies and gentlemen, the legend himself, Brian Stokes.
See ya.